We're going to ask just Craig a couple of questions just to set up the meeting this morning. Now, we know Craig and Brenda fairly well. Many of us have been impacted by their lives, and we're so grateful to God for sending them from America to us here in South Africa. And they head up Tsunami, but this morning as Craig is preaching, he's preaching on leadership, servant-hearted leadership. And there's two questions I'm going to ask him. And the first one is that we know a little bit about their background, etc., but we don't know exactly how his upbringing and everything that he's been involved in would inform us in terms of leadership, because your environment, this background, circumstances actually determine your worldview. And we'd love to just hear from you, Craig.
Well, sitting up here talking about leadership doesn't mean that I'm the expert at all, but I can inform you with how I was brought up, and I was an only child. Grew up in Wisconsin, or the Midwest. And funny how there's a lot of similarities in South Africans and the Midwesterners, or at least our home state. Down-to-earth people, give you the shirt off their back. There's lots of farming in our home state. So we didn't really know that when we first came 10 years ago. But as a busy child, my mom, I had both parents and still married, but Dad worked second and third shift. So Mom was always the one having to deal with me, who busy young man. So sports was a way for me to get out of my mom's hair, I think. But through sports, and especially through when I was a gymnast, that taught me discipline in a big way. When other kids in sixth grade were, I don't know what they do in sixth grade, or grade 6, but I was training 4 or 5 days a week for 3 hours. And so that taught me discipline. And through that, I got confidence, I think, to get into leadership roles and, into university and then afterwards. I think I think that one of the things that I can tell you that my dad told me was stuck with me forever, still sticks with me today, is you can do anything you put your mind to. Now that's not really, scripture, but I believed it then, and I wasn't a believer at the time, and but I started to believe that. And so when you believe that, you're not afraid to try. And it doesn't mean that everything I tried I was successful at, but the more you try, the more you succeed.
Oh, it's great, eh? But now there's going to be differences between leadership in the secular world and leadership in the church world. How would you define those? What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of overlap. I think things like work ethic, being in team, just being wise in your decision making, they all seem to overlap. I think the biggest difference is the focus. And there's no room for pride or selfishness in biblical leadership. I mean, Christ came to serve and not be served. And so with that said, it seems like secular is all focused on getting to the end goal of comfort. And that's not really at all what biblical leadership is about. I'm not saying being in leadership in the church setting, you'll always be uncomfortable, but it's definitely not the main goal.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Craig.